Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with a bit of a Total War Warhammer 2 double cast. And this time around it's both going to be two Empire games testing a bit of a ridiculous strategy. And it really came from facing off against orcs. And as many of you know, one of my standard builds against orcs is a bit of a gimmicky heavy cav and steam tank oriented comp. But I decided, you know what, let's try something different. Let's try something unique, and let's try to outwaugh the Waaagh. And so that is what this whole composition is about. In this first game, we are scoring off against Greenskins. We are rolling with Balthazar Gelt for our Lord. That is because we are relying on warrior priests, and we want two of them to really make this line of Greatswords work. For my Lord, Balthazar Gelt, he's got Final Change Mutation, always great against against Greenskin Lords. You can really snipe him with Final Change Mutation. Also, you can stack him. You can stack... if your opponent blobs up their lords, you can stack this on top of them and just melt them. If they're fighting alongside cavalry, alongside Ragnarok, you can often just get devastating blows that way. Alongside that glittering robe, plus 60 armor, and you can, when overcast, it does provide an AoE. This might seem like an oddball choice, but against Greenskins, oftentimes you won't see Black Orcs. You'll see Savage Orcs or Big Guns, relying on being wad up to do a lot of damage. So 60 armor can help counter that a lot. Like it bumps your Greatswords up from 95 armor to 155 armor, which is steam tank levels essentially, and that is insane. That can give you a huge burst of survivability in the early parts of an engagement. Also, Searing Doom, good at melting squishy blobs, doing a bit of damage that way. Metal Shifting, I figured it would be decent here because 10% extra damage on our Greatswords would be nice. We do have both the Staff of Valance as well as Arcane Conduit, both very decent abilities. Now, our front line here is composed of great swords, and you can see we've got 4 units of them, backed up by a warrior priest for every 2, and the warrior priest is rocking his... well, actually not his full kit, but most of his kit. He's got Hammer of Sigmar, he's got Soulfire, he's got Shield of Faith, as well as Benediction, providing that juicy +8 leadership. Very important to keep these guys in the fight. And Scroll of Power, so we can rewind and reuse our spells immediately. Potentially just a devastating combo when we plow into my opponent's front line. Now, besides that, we did want to generate a little bit of extra width. We do have some spearmen on the flanks here to provide some backline defense. No cavalry at all. 3 units of handguns, 2 normal, and then the silver bullets, providing a sort of central firing pocket here to counter enemy range, as well as to focus down single entity monsters. I didn't really have anything else to counteract, say, Ragnarok, and that's a pretty common sight in this match, in my experience. Or if my opponents say we just brought like 5 or 6 Black Orcs or something, and like I just need to overwhelm them with fire. I wanted to have a little bit more stopping power there. And finally, we do have a steam tank. So I actually think this is one of the few matchups for the steam tank, and I don't want to get too much into this, but it's definitely a bit of a shoddy unit. But I do think this is one of the few matchups where it can really shine. It's pretty good at picking away at your opponent early on, and then running them over in chariot form. Now for my opponent's build, he has gone with a front line of Black Orcs mixed in with Night Goblins for that poison. Definitely a solid idea. Black Orcs, of course, are very difficult to rout. They've got not the greatest leadership, actually. If you look at the baseline here, what are they looking at? There's 72 base, which honestly not too great. It's actually kind of on the low side, but they do have immunity psychology, which is a huge compensator. You can see 74 actually in Greatswords, so they're actually higher up than the Orcs. Night Goblins, though, will be providing poison, making these Black Orcs do sort of tank damage better. Black Orcs, of course, are just a very meaty unit, 110 armor, 100 HP. Very potent stuff, and with Waaagh, their melee attack jumps to a monstrous 56, I do believe, so they're pretty nasty. For my opponent's ground army, we've got a mix of Orc Air Boys in the back line, backed up by a single unit of Savage Orc Big Guns, perhaps a little bit of anti-large here. More Orc Air Boys. Now, these guys can be dangerous. They've got 6 AP, so they can definitely do some work against Greatswords. And with 5 of them, it's going to be quite the overwhelming bit of firepower. 2 Orc Boar Boy Big Guns who are immediately going to take a few shots from the tank. You can see these guys are already 2 models down. Night Goblin Shaman here with a Vindictive Glare as well as Itchy Nuisance. He also does have a full kit of items, which I think isn't really worth it on this guy. Wand of Jet is definitely nice, but Madcap Mushroom's kind of pointless in my opinion. Sneaky Stealing, not a bad item. Definitely counters Gelt a little bit. We also have Azag the Slaughter with Fate of Buna, with Spirit Leech. Get on with it. Life Leeching. So Foe Seeker as well as Waaagh. So definitely some nasty stuff there. If he gets in on me, this could be pretty unfun. Fate of Buna against Greatswords could be potent. That said, we do have a secret weapon there against Fate of Buna. If my opponent tries to pull that stuff, we do have Soulfire potential. So 90% magic resist will negate not all or even like half of Fate of Buna, but still, it's a significant mitigation. You can negate about half of it, I would say. And that's not bad. Now, in the meantime, the cannon is here chipping away at the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns, already knocking him down by 7 models. You know, every little bit you can do early is nice. The tank's just chipping away, knocked off an Orc Airborne there as well, and we're just kind of poking and trying to pressure my opponent to make him move here. because every second he is losing miles. 3 miles off the Black Orcs there. Now we are pushing in to engage. Now the steam tank is also here in this forward position. Had my opponent had, for example, Doom Divers out here, the first thing they'd target if they were on auto fire would have been the steam tank, and my opponent would have had to move closer to attack the Greatsword. That would have been nifty. Meantime, the cannon does fire, and I do believe whiffs there. Doesn't hit anything. But the steam tank is now gunning its engines. It's going to be soaking the charger. The idea is for me to get 2 Greatswords on each Black Orc, loaded up by a Warrior Priest. And the steam tank here is going to break these guys' charge, which is actually important. Black Orcs without their charger are a much less effective unit. 29 charge bonus is huge normally. So we're looking to correct blood. Over here, the Warrior Priest diving against these Black Orcs. We're actually going to shift these Greatswords over to Gobos, and shortly you're going to see magic happen. Now, Waaagh has gone down. You can see the spears deploying on the flanks here to shield my guns. These spears over here are actually going to take the full brunt of this attack from the Black Orcs. What can you do? Steam tank is in here. Let's just see that. Overwhelming volley of buffs going down. And look at the way things are going. Already, these Black Orcs, who didn't take too much damage initially, are under half health. These Black Orcs over here are also getting pounded pretty hard. And keep in mind, this is while Waaagh is active. The moment Waaagh goes down, this damage per output is going to tank. You're going to fall behind. Now, Spirit Leash is going down Baltasar Gelt here, but keep being shielded a little bit. And the Warrior Priest is there in the face. These Greatswords are going to collapse on these guys. Spirit is turning around the flank. We're going to surround the Black Orcs and knock them out. Soulfire is going down. We've popped our full power, I do believe, at this point. Rewind and use our spells again, and we're just piling through. Unfortunately, the Archer Fire is starting to have a bit of a painful effect. The steam tank over here does interdict these Orc big guns before they can get too far. My gun's here trying to stay on top of Waaagh, and it's kind of succeeding. He's getting whittled down for sure. It's going to feel the hurt. The Warrior Priest, as well as the Spears here, trying to get in on the Orc boys, and some air fire coming in. So, all in all, taking an overarching look at the battlefield, things went south for my opponent incredibly quickly. Now Scroll of Powers are being popped. The Greatswords are collapsing here on the Black Orcs, looking to get this immediate flank charge in. That's the Empire Waaagh here. It is kicking off. We are crushing these fools, and it's really quite a brutal fight. You can see understand the Greatswords going. Here, Waaagh does try to dive in, looking to shut down his backline. I think his leg goes off, but Final Transmutation goes down. Overcast, and we're sniping, and we're getting rid of that leadership as best we can. Soon he's going to be gone, and with that, my opponent's leadership is going to be gone, and that's going to result in a bit of a snowball effect here. Now, you can't see the last tick there, throws him to the ground. It actually stays there and he's like a shaman a little bit, which is kind of funny. My opponent should have moved out of the AoE, but over here, the Orc boys are going to rout. They're not able to stick around. Itchy Nuisance, obviously helping a little bit to keep him safe there, but the fact is, handgunners, the melee defense is terrible at 17, but Orcs and Boar boys only have 22 melee attacks, so not too impressive. And we're going to sort of unload on them as they retreat. In the meantime, Gelt over here is being quite the hero sniper, diving in against the Celtic Shaman, getting a few shanks and chasing him off. But we can't sit tight too long because we're going to get shot from the flank. Now, here the steam tank is helping the Greatsword stand a fight. The fact is, the steam tank finding that fear, terror, and chasing units off, and more importantly, it's able to soak up some of these charges a little bit. So it's saving the Greatsword from too much damage. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to move these Black Orcs yet. Meantime, the guns are swinging over here, looking to get some flank shots into these Savage Orc big guns, and their leadership is tanking. With units routing all around them, terror kicks in, and they are forced to retreat. Now 15 miles, taking quite a pounding, and taking even more as time progresses. Now, over here, the Spears, though, getting focused by the air fire, and things are actually a little frustrating at this point. Now, the Black Orcs have been removed, so my opponent's front line is essentially gone, his Lord is gone. Over here, the Greatswords are doing some cleanup in Aisle 9, but my opponent has so many air boys, and I don't have much to chase them with. I've just got guns to try to gun them down, but I think the steam tank to chase them. I think the Black Orcs does go down sniping Baltasar Gelt here. We're able to mop up the rest of these Black Orcs. Fact is, yeah, you know, the guns, they're taking a while. It's not actually that easy for them to wipe out these air boys. Greatswords are taking a bit of damage because my opponent is doing pro Space Marine or pro Starcraft Marine strats. He's splitting his archers, dragging me into pursuit, and I can't do much against that. His archers are just faster than the Greatswords. It's only 28 speed, doing crossfire and rack. The steam tank here does get into the Night Goblin, and he's going to be able to rout them. They're not going to stick around for long. The leadership immediately boppos, and they're run like little dandies pretty quick. Meantime, archers, of course, are really struggling as well with their leadership. Unfortunately, goblins being a bit of a low leadership unit aren't gonna, you know, or being expendable unit, they're not gonna impact the leadership of the Orc Air boys. In the meantime, though, guns over here, last samurai, the Orc Bull boys, as they try to close the gap. They do get a few of those getting there, but these are actually just normal because they're not able to stick around. Having a really bad damage. Trying to stand there against the gunner. The gunner just whip out the shield. They're like, that was like 500. And before my opponent could do much, they're going to rout. Balance of power swing pretty wildly in my favor now. Greatsword, spears, and the warrior priest are mopping up these troops. A few volleys there going into the retreating Greatsword, but another unit of Greatsword is now pushing forward, looking to pressure my opponent. The steam tank is just running him off the back, doing whatever the hell it feels like, because there's nothing to stop it at this point. My opponent has no crowd control. He's got no units to really stop it. Honestly, even if all his Arrow Boys right now focused on the steam tank, I'm not sure they could take it down. Gelt here trying to tie these guys down though, and the gun's trying to move up into range. They're a little slow though, 33 speed, definitely not the greatest. Obviously they're not a super mobile unit. But able to get a little closer there. Over here, the Warrior Priest is able to ensure a pretty nasty wipe on these Savage with big guns. You can see Shield of Faith and Hammer of Sigmar buffing all these troops up through the roof. Balance of power shifts fully, and my opponent's armor is shattered. So Pyrrhic victory for the Empire. Now granted, my opponent's build not necessarily the most competitive, I would say. Lack of snares really would be limiting against a heavy cab build. But I did find it amusing to see just how well the Greatswords did when buffed up by those Warrior Priests. One of the cool things is, so Waaagh is a one-time thing, and if your Lord can't get in combat, if your opponent didn't bring like Grimgor or Skarsnik and like run them into the fight, they are not going to get a second Waaagh off. You can easily pop the... So the thing you can do is while your opponent... So even if your opponent is wider than you, you can absorb the width with spears and just sacrifice the spears. Who cares? Like 300 gold unit, throw them away. The Warrior Priests help the Greatswords win the fight decisively. The Greatswords completely rolled over the Black Orcs. They doubled up some of them. Some of them they took 1v1 and they just crushed them very, very quickly. The Warrior Priest buffed the melee attack as well as protection, which is huge. You know, a 22% damage reduction means that those Black Orcs are instantly doing about only 40 weapon strength, which is the same essentially as Greatswords. So for a little bit, you've essentially got the Greatswords hitting as hard as the Black Orcs, which is pretty significant. And yeah, so your Greatswords can run over those Black Orcs who've got a few units, both heroic as well as the steam tank to soak up charges, and then guns to provide some additional leadership support or additional sort of shutdown against enemy large targets. The Greatsword just did really well. It was pretty entertaining, and I've had a critique for my opponent's build here. I really do simply think there's just no crowd control. If your opponent brings, you've got Orc Boys, but they're not going to win you a fight against multiple units of Reichsguard, the Demigryphs, or Knights of the Blazing Sun. They probably won't even win against one, to be honest, especially if your opponent sets up the charge and whatnot correctly. So you really need, in my opinion, much more mobility. You need to bring Nasty Skulkers, you need to bring in a Ragnarok Queen, something like that to really shut these units down, or shut these potential mobile units down. Ones I didn't really bring, but, you know, you will occasionally see them, and it would have helped. If you have those high mass units, they can threaten the backline, they can threaten the steam tank much more effectively, that sort of thing. Regardless, well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, because we're moving on to another round of this Imperial Waaagh, and this time around is going to be against the forces of Chaos. So this time around we are on the Red Desert, and our build is much akin to the last one. Once again, we are running with Gelt. This time around, his kit is in fact slightly different than last time. We've swapped out the glittering robe for Plague of Rust, getting that extra 30 armor debuff. The simple fact is we've changed up our build, whereas last time it was almost completely AP reliant. Now we do have the Knights of the Blazing Sun running around, providing backline support and protection, and these guys will struggle against heavily armored targets without some help, and that is why we want the Plague of Rust. Now besides that, same kit, Searing Doom, Final Transmutation, Evasion. We actually didn't bring the passive, but hey, it's just 10% damage. It's not the end of the world. We also have Arcane Conduit as well as Staff of Lawn, so our Winds of Magic should be pretty solid on Gelt Boy. Front line, same as last time. We do have double Warrior Priest backing up quad Greatsword. Of course, Warrior Priests have most of their kit, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, or Hammer of Sigmar, I guess, just Hammer. Archlector's got the Grand Hammer. But Hammer of Sigmar, Soulfire, the Shield of Faith, Shield of Power, as well as Benediction. Against Chaos is even more important. Chaos will often have much more terror and fear heavy builds, and in my opinion, it's even more important to have that leadership there. Now, for our gunnery line, it is a little heavier than last time. We've got triple handguns again, but also the Sterling's Revenge thrown into the middle here. So these guys can act as a sort of protective unit a little bit. They've got decent melee stats, very high AP damage output, and they've got immune psychology. leadership's okay. They'll hold for a decent amount of time and just buy your guns time to run away oftentimes. Besides that, double Knights of the Blazing Sun giving us a little bit of high mass peripheral protection. Now unfortunately this is Red Desert, so there is this very significant ridge in the middle. And pushing in against my opponent here could be a bit difficult because we do want our flat arc units in a position to fire. And if my opponent plays his cards right, he could deny me here. And he's playing his Chaos, so looking at his army, he's gone super wide. For his Lord, he has rolled with Kolek Suneater. This is not a bad choice. Obviously very risky against the gunplay, but he's got Lord of the Storm, very potent single area nuke or bombardment spell. He does have standard die, going to keep his troops in the fight a little better. A Chaos Sorcerer fire with Fireball as well as piercing bolts, and he also does have the Kindle Flame, of course, for that extra damage. You basically always want that. The front line here is composed of a mix of Marauders as well as Chaos Warriors, and these guys are interchanged. They are mixed up, and so we can see that it's quite the imposing front, and they are backed by some filthy beasties back here. Interesting choice here is the double Chaos Spawn. We can see one unit over there. Summers of Rage in the center and more Chaos Spawn in the back. Now that obviously these guys will provide some mass, some staying power. My opponent most likely expecting a very gun heavy army backed by a lot of cheap infantry. That's kind of a standard Empire composition, but this front line, which is very potent at overrunning a cheap front line and then getting in on guns, is going to struggle a bit when faced against these Greatswords, and we're going to see how well we can outperform them. Besides that, my opponent does have 2 Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes on the flank. Obviously, these guys are not necessarily meant for melee, but they will still do a nasty job if they get in on handguns. 24 charge bonus is not bad by any means. It can be nasty. Now, Fireball does go down and is immediately homing in on my 4 Knights of the Blazing Sun. Knocks off 5 miles despite my efforts to sort of juke or bait it into the trees, so it kind of sucks. Losing 5 miles of Knights is not how you want to start a game. Now we are pushing to the ridge here. Balthazar Gelt is spotting my opponent's army because he's up in the air. But as you can see here, this ridge, this cosmos is not where I want to fight, really. I don't honestly mind the Greatswords. The Greatswords can clobber these troops, but I don't want the Greatswords getting pounded by the monsters while on top of the infantry. My opponent could potentially out-endure in that situation. It's something I'm really concerned about. We also don't have the spears for that extra width, so missing those spears on the flanks here is going to make it a little tougher. But fortunately, we do have this outcrop, and we're going to be able to use it. You can see my Greatsword is going to pull this way, shifting our entire battle line over to the side to make sure at least one flank is secured and protected. You can see the Greatswords here running over, repositioning, and my opponent moving to match. And it's going to be a bit of a stance here. It's about a minute into the game, and the only damage so far has been the Lord of Firecaster dropping a few fireballs. Now, Kolek is trying to crest the ridge here, so our guns are going to pivot and start unloading on it. My opponent tries its best not to run in with Kolek, and he immediately takes 400 or so damage and falls back. Now, in the meantime, we can see the Greatswords postured forward to zone and then are falling back, and it's a very cautious and steady game. Knights of the Blazing Sun repositioning further back because I don't want them taking extra hits from the Marauder Horsemen. Fireball is going down. My opponent here trying to get his Chaos Sorcerer into position, but immediately takes volleys of fire from the guns. Part of the problem here, I think, so he's trying to cast Fireball, and it's a little difficult when you're playing from top down. But you can see there's absolutely no line of sight on the Knights. So the Fireball is interrupted, and he takes a volley of gunfire. Not where he wants to be. Unfortunately, big misplay here on my part. The guns are getting very, very clumped. My Greatswords have always shifted over here, so I don't really have much protection with the guns. And my opponent's Marauder Horsemen here breaking cover, trying to get in. Knights of the Blazing Sun do turn around and get in there, zoning them away. Definitely a little bit of a success, though. Some hatches do fly in and harm our handguns. In the meantime, my opponent's infantry is piling in, so we're going to countercharge them and meet them in the fray. And Marauders soaking up the charge, so very good choice there. You can see my opponent Greatswords over here not going to finish the charge at all. But we were able to start popping the buffs. My opponent's Summoners of Rage here, committing, diving in against the guns, but Soulfire going down, Hammer of Sigmar, Shield of Faith, all those abilities coming down into the barrage in this area, and my opponent can really squeak away. You're going to countercharge you with a nice Blazing Sun while this unit over here zones away. In the meantime, Final Transmutation is coming down, melting Kolek as well as some very quality guns. I do believe it's Thunderbolt or Piercing Bolt burning them down. But it is brutal against this clumped up mob. This is not just look at how miserable my deployment here is. Like, I don't even know. Chance of vision ones that are insane amounts of damage. These guys are just completely fucked. It's quite nice. Some of them might stand back up. Really. Not how you want to play, guys. Definitely big misplay. That said, Dragon Rouge routed. 9 models, full flight. Sorcerer routed, full flight. only Kolek is in here, and Kolek is getting pounded. He's facing wrecked. Now the gunners here do need to disengage. They're now being swarmed in from all sides by my opponent's robbers. But at least some guns are fighting their way clear. Some of these guys are retreating. As I mentioned before, the streams are able to stall a little bit, and the knights are actually able to rout off some of these mob horsemen. Now in the fight, in the pits, the fight is very one-sided. If we take an overarching look at the battlefield, the Greatswords over here, dominating. Completely dominating these Chaos Warriors. We've used our Scroll of Power, get our second wind of these abilities. We're up to 69 kills on these Greatswords. These Greatswords are here mulching through these troops. Now, Greatswords over here are going to rout to terror. The simple fact is the priest can't keep them in line when you're getting pounded by 2 Chaos Spawn and multiple Chaos Warriors, and Kolek ran through them, and we had Summers of Rage and bombardments and everything. But we bled him bad. We're going to rout here, but we will rally, and once the troops break that terror, we're going to be able to stick around. Scroll of Power does go down here. That's actually wrapped up. We've been able to use our 2 round abilities, and you know, we're just running out of troops. Green Knights and some are dying gloriously for the cause. Buying time against Kolek. Not much you can do. Cool Knights and Ladies in this call. I mean, not ideal against Kolek, it's not really what you want, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Kolek here is making a shot. Over here, once again, we're getting a little more going down on the Greatsword as well as we're getting them. Really rough stuff. This Sorcerer is being a major pain in the posterior, doing a lot of damage. But Kolek is being removed from play here, 600 HP, and dropping 60, 22, and 0, and so that's another big route. We're able to move and play, Knights of Blazing Sun time disengaging from the fight. Now we do need to start booking it. We want to get away from these Chaos Warriors. Now, unfortunately, big misplay here on my part is not getting that Blazing Sun away or getting charged at least. We do have these guys with Plague of Rust, and one thing most keeping in mind in this engagement is this little perk here on the Knights of the Blazing Sun. 25% magic resist. And what damage do these guys do? 25%, or they do magic damage. So 25% damage reduction against these Summers of Rage is pretty significant. Something people often miss about Knights of the Blazing Sun, but it makes them nigh immune to Spirit Leech and pretty resistant to Summers of Rage. And when I say nigh immune, they're not going to bleed models. The reason being that Spirit Leech jumps from different models to other different models per tick. That means you usually won't lose many, if any, models single cast Spirit Leech, or honestly even multiple cast Spirit Leech, because it'll just won't do enough damage per tick to kill the model. In the meantime, though, Marauders swarming in, and this is really getting rough because I don't have the troops to defend. My infantry is all either overextended and is fighting here in the pits, spawn, honestly barely being held together by the Warrior Priest here. The guns over here are actually being rushed by these very annoying Marauder Horsemen. These guys are very persistent, just a huge nuisance. These guys are routed. The Chaos Warriors doing a lot of damage. The Silver Bolts here holding their own, putting on guard stance, and they're last 7 against the Marauder Horsemen. You can't see a single thing going on for the Marauders. But finally, Pulsar comes sweeping down from the skies, diving in on his Pegasus, throwing Quicksilver, carrying it in from Frey here. Chaos Warriors, as big as he is, he's buying time. And one of the things I was trying to do at this point was just break off these Marauders. I didn't care about the rest of the stuff here. I knew that if I can save my guns, if I can save the firepower, I can finish this game. And so I knew I could cut away the Chaos Warriors. I only got 28 speed, but I can't outrun the Marauders. I think I've got 35 speed. I need to get rid of these guys. I need to knock them off. And so Gelt is going to be circling around and diving back in, looking to buy us that precious time, those precious moments to escape. Meantime, the Knights of the Blazing Sun committing to the charge. Greatswords over here do turn around and mop up these Chaos Marauders. These 2 Greatswords rallying at the distance. Nothing that my opponent has left is a really major threat to my army. It's really just about crushing these Chaos Marauders. Sterling Revenge here is going to dive in against the Chaos Marauders. Might seem a little silly, but you know, they've got decent stats. Better than the Marauders, in fact. And in come the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So there's not many of them left, only a unit of 11. And they do get in though. At this point, they're just exhausted. There's barely, it's such a haggard fight. Like, look at this. It's like half a dozen, like, I don't know, like half a dozen Knights, like 2 dozen Free Company, and a couple dozen Marauders just slugging out in the pits. But they do run them down. They shatter the Chaos Marauders. And my opponent's army actually, at this point, really buckle. You can't see we've got guns rallying in the distance. So while these Chaos Spawn technically are unbreakable, it would have been the end there. My opponent does concede defeat. So very well played the Battle Angel. Really fun engagement. One of the top players on the ladder, in fact. Battle Angel, I do believe, one of the top players in the ladder. Very competitive player, and obviously a little bit of perhaps silly build with the Chaos Spawn, but it was a very fun fight. And obviously in the beginning you did see a lot of posture. It was a very significant fight of that engagement. Both of us trying to win the advantage there, find that right position because I didn't want to find myself in a position where I couldn't use my guns, and my opponent didn't want to give me a position where I could use my guns. So we were both posturing around that hill looking for that perfect charge, and it just wasn't happening for the longest time. Finally, my opponent did commit after I sort of pushed up to the hill with the Greatswords, and we were able to squeak out the end. I think some good focus fire from the handguns was a big game changer there, shutting down full leg and the Summoner Rage. But the Greatswords roided up very significant. Now, obviously, the Warrior Priests didn't get much done. They don't do much killing. But the buffs they provided were just absolutely indispensable. They roided up those Greatswords. They get 130, 68, 63, 34 kills. Keep in mind, that was against Chaos Warriors. That was against Chaos Marauders. Oftentimes very competitive units, and of course they do rout at some point. So you can see two of those Chaos Warriors were essentially eradicated. One unit did plow through and go up to the guns, but it's just fun. So definitely a nifty win. Kolek got a good amount of kills. So the Chaos Warriors for fire. Definitely my spread of units was very bad. I should have kept them separated more. And that would have probably done me a huge amount of good. That said, it's definitely been a fun build, trying to make this glorious Greatsword Waaagh build work. It's been a lot of fun, but interesting to try to get some orcs and outlaw the Waaagh. And yeah, it was definitely an entertaining build. Not necessarily the most competitive, but fun for sure. And yeah, I guess that is it. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, criticism, questions, don't hesitate to comment down below. I will do my very best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.